What's going on YouTube? Globalbuzz here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be recapping the Fresno Regionals that took place over this past weekend. And I know that we've been in Regulation D content on the channel lately, but I still want to, still do a little bit of Regulation C just because there's still something to play for leading up to the NAIC, right? And which is pretty much the last big Regulation C tournament before we go full swing in Regulation D, which will be the format, of course, for the World Championships. But that being said, we did have Fresno Regionals, which again, information from this regional is again up to date because whatever happened here is gonna be taken into account when going for the NAIC tournament, right? So let's go down here, okay? And what I want to start off with is basically just saying how like there was so much variance and different teams within like the top cut, especially, right? And any kind of player that tells you oh, VGC is a little bit boring, it's the same 10 or 15 mons over and over again, look at this, like that may be true, but if you look at some of these Pokemon that even though they're the same on some of these teams, the fact that they have different sets means you play them differently, which is enough to say that what, this is not the same Pokemon. Like Fluttermane with Trick Room, for example, versus Fluttermane without Trick Room is a very, very different Pokemon. Let me just say that right clear. And if you disagree, hey man, let me know in the comments and we can have a little friendly argument about that. But I'll say it again, any kind of Pokemon, whether they have the same Pokemon on another team, if they have different sets, the way you use them will be different, and that alone will give you enough variance as to how the team is played, right? Which again affects how the team functions, right? But so many different archetypes within the top 16, and that's what I want to go over, right? So let's start over here with Emilio Forbes' team. A very standard balanced core, with Arcanine and Mungus bundle, and then you have the Kingambit Fluttermane, and normally there would be a Dragon type in the slot, like something like Dragonite, but Emilio decided, let's go with the Iron Hands here, let's go with the Heavy Slam on it, and this way we can afford to go with the Black Glasses, Swords Dance Kingambit here, and that's usually what is kind of a thing here, whether you have like two Pokemon that want the Assault Vest, but then all of a sudden you can only put one on them, and then the other one just gets like a Swords Dance set. And we kind of see this also when you have like Iron Hands and Tinglu. Usually the Tinglu will get the Assault Vest and the Iron Hands will go for like something like a Swords Dance set, for example, right? But again, here's exactly what I'm saying. Look, Fluttermane with choice specs, but then Trick Room, which means after it sets Trick Room, it can probably just reset and switch out to something else. But again, Arcanine, no how here. It's just a straight up Extreme Speed Will-O-Wisp set with safety goggles. Bundle is also relatively standard. Same here with the Amoonguss. And overall, just a very, very standard, solid, balanced team with just like a Fluttermane Trick Room on it. But Amelia was able to pilot it relatively well. And of course, won the whole thing with it, right? So super cool, and shout outs to him. Gavin Michaels, who we know very well, of course, from Oceania, and just again another former regional winner, and he's just been using this rain squad to its fullest potential. Once again, it's the Pelipper, Pelipper, Amoonguss plus Rain Sweeper. In this case, it's not Palafin, it's the Azumarill, and then from here, Iron Hands has to come here just to give you that Iron Bundle matchup, and then a Steel type in the rain is also very, very good. And then of course Fluttermane, because Fluttermane is the best mon in the format. But Booster Energy Fluttermane with Trick Room and Protect this time, okay? And again, no Tailwind on this Pelipper, it's just Hurricane, Hydro Pump, Wide Guard. Okay, so again, meant to be relatively slow and bulky, just meant to provide that rain support. So this way your Life Orb Azumarill will be dealing a lot of the damage. And then over here, Trick Goldango with the Choice Scarf here. And we got to see this when he tricked the Amoonguss in his semifinal game. It was basically a fast Amoonguss clicking Pollen Puff, from Riley, which is actually really, really funny. But this Iron Hands has no Steel move because you're relying the Steel coverage over here, and instead allow you for better repositioning with Volt Switch just to get your sweepers in better position, especially after that Volt Switch here. So really good team from Gavin Michaels. So then over here we go into another archetype here with Zach Dornberg, and this one revolves around Talonflame offense with Life Orb with Mouse Ape, and we kind of see a couple of these Mouse Ape teams with Talonflame. I call it like Mouse Ape offense. All right, and here's the Goldango yet again, but this one it's Nasty Plot, Terra Blast, Protect with Leftovers. So again, just like in the previous team, you had Choice Scarf for Trick, and now you have Leftovers with Nasty Plot. Again, this one relies more on the setup hiding behind the mouse hold. And then you have a double fairy here, but with the Screamtail, again, a fundamentally different Pokemon than the Fluttermane, with just all-out offense here with the choice specs. And then over here, it's just Encore Disable, two of the best support moves that you can have in the format right now. And, Screamtail gets both of them while just, providing extra bulk for the entire team. And of course, we already know what Talonflame can do, especially with the Life Orb set. It just can do so much damage and pick up a lot of different KOs that normally you probably wouldn't be able to pick up if you didn't have this extra damage from the Life Orb. So super, super cool to see this Mouse Ape offense over here. So then now we go here to Riley's team. So this is one of the best teams leading up into the regional, right? This double balance team, with Iron Hands and the Tinglu. Okay, and we'll speak more about this in within the later part of the video. But Tera Fairy as a defensive typing, very, very good, of course, because who's really dealing all the fairy damage? Fluttermane, right? Well, then why don't you just neutralize that with Tera Fairy, right? And then at the same time, what does Tera Fairy also do? Just considering the dark covers, the fighting moves that are super effective against the Tinglu. So now you kind of neutralize that with your defensive typing with Tera Fairy. And then from here, Nasty Plot, Chi-Yu with the Mungus is really, really strong. Gyarados with the Lumberry, so this way you can't really burn it, at least for one turn, or sleep it. Then again, very standard set with Taunt and Thunder Wave. So, this is again, just like a standard Fire Water Grass core with, a bunch of bulky support options. Fake Out here with Assault Vest, and here again, Heavy Slime here on the Iron Hand. So another cool team. Then we get into a Garchomp offense team, okay? And we've done this core before with like, Qianpao, Talonflame, Garchomp, Goldenga. We built a whole team on that. Remember the team we showcased on the channel earlier, a couple videos ago, that we gave to Bonsai VGC. He used our Garchomp team to get top 8 in the NorCal locals, right? And we kind of see that same core come back here. The Garchomp has Iron Head. And then next to Dragonite, you can just spam Earthquake, and Dragonite does a bunch of damage with Outrage. And or extreme speed priority moves. Same here with Great Tusk. It's interesting to see Great Tusk and Garchomp on the same team, right? I've actually never seen this before, but it makes a lot of sense. Sometimes you just bring one and not the other. Tera Poison Garchomp is really, really cool. I like Tera Fire, of course, but again, Tera Poison is also really, really good as well. Again, it's still able to resist the fairy damage, right? And then you neutralize the ice damage, so might as well. Same with the Dragon Weakness. This is another Trick Goldengo, with Thunderbolt coverage. So super, super cool there. Again, just another a very strong hyper offensive team. Okay. Then over here, we go into Caleb Brown. So now we got a Dondozo team, right? So look at all the variants and the different teams that you're seeing within this regional so far, just within the top cut. So the surprising thing with Dondozo is, no regional title for Dondozo, right? With all the respect it commands in team building, okay, it always gets like, either second, third, fourth, fifth place, several top cut results, always doing relatively well in every single regional, but it never gets that one regional big win, right? It's kind of like the guy that gets second, third, or fourth place in every single competition, but never gets first place. Still very, very good. It's just like you never getting the big one, right? And that's also true here with this time around with Dondozo. Again, very, very good core here with Arcanine, Amoonguss, and Fluttermane. Again, part of the balance core. Then you have a back Scalper here. Tera Poison, of course, very, very good as well. Good into a lot of the format, of course. But I really, really like Lumberry Dondozo. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially on a team like this. Okay, and then we just saw Garchomp earlier. Now we have another one. And again, this is something that Alberto's been using for forever, with Klefki, and then Garchomp, Garchomp, Fluttermane, and Corviknight, one of the best Dragon Fairy Steel combinations you can ever have on a team. And then the Roaring Moon is meant to give you speed control with Tailwind, as well as exert a little bit more offensive pressure, of course. Just how good it is, especially with this boost energy. And then a Life Orb Chi is also very, very dangerous. Kind of compensates for the lack of damage your Fluttermane might deal just because it has a Focus Sash over here. But again, very, very cool team from Alberto. And then over here, we have another Garchomp team, but this one is a Sand team from Lenduel. He's used this before in another regional, but again, Garchomp, Corviknight, Fluttermane, same Dragon Fairy Steel Core, but now you add Tyranitar, Lycanroc here with Sandvale Garchomp. So this is a Sand team almost. with the Iron Bundle, Tera flying, so you're able to click Icy Wind, get speed control, then click Earthquake, just to deal some big damage here. And then this is Garchomp with Substitute, so it's also pretty good into Trick Room matchups because, again, you're just alternating your Sup and Protect to stall out those Trick Room turns. And of course, Tyranitar can help you do that as well, just because it's a relatively slow Pokemon. It can do relatively okay in Trick Room. And then, of course, you have the fast mode here with not only just Tailwind, but Lycanroc, Sandrush, just be able to outspeed a lot of the format just because of its speed here, right? And then, if we keep going here, here we go. At 9th place here, outside of the top 8. But again, we see another Talonflame offensive, but this one is a very, very different one. This one has Chi-Yu with Brute Bonnet. Okay, so not Amoonguss, but Brute Bonnet. So again, a little bit more pressure from the physical side, because if you have Amoonguss, it's actually a relatively passive team. But now that you have Brute Bonnet, it's a little bit more offense, so it helps a little bit there. And again, we also see the return of Life Orb Talonflame, a lot of damage. Palafin repositioning is also really, really nice here. And again, Screen Tail with Encore and Disable is really nice. And it's a Specs Flutter Mane, behind a Chi-Yu, dealing a lot of special attack damage. So, it just makes a lot of sense here on a kind of team like this. So shout outs to Jimmy. And then, of course, our friend, our homie Neil, right, who finally won on stream. So congrats to him to finally winning and breaking the curse there. This is something he's been using a while. I know this. So Specs Flutter Mane, Tera Electric Amoonguss, we've seen this, on a lot of different teams. Just very, very good neutral typing to help out against a lot of different matchups. And then from here, Arcanine with the Berry, Roaring Moon Dragon Dance does a lot of damage, and then you get a lot of chip damage with the Tinglu with Ruination, Heavy Slam for your Flutter Mane matchup, and then this is Bulk Up Palafin, which is really, really good, especially with Safety Goggles. So this way you can punish potentially passive turns by just setting up, especially behind Amoonguss, if you can do that. So really, really good there from Neil. And then here we got Henrik. So another Mouse 8 Talon offensive team. This is something that we've seen in within the top 8 earlier. But more or less very, very standard sets here. So I won't say anything more than that. But here's another one, another Dondozo team. But we have a Wo-Chien this time with the Glimmora. Wo-Chien Glimmora has been a very, very common duo to try and utilize. If you had to play Wo-Chien, you got to use Glimmora. And if you're going to use Glimmora, you might as well slap on Dondozo Tatsugiri. Glimmora has enjoyed the company of those two relatively well. And then you just add a bunch of balance stuff like Arcanine and Tinglu just to, enough damage reduction, and then just hide behind the poison damage, right? And, the Leech Seed spam. So this way Dondozo and or Tatsugiri can just come in the end game and just finish things off after everything has taken a lot of chip damage, right? So I'll do a few more, but you get the idea how just so much different variants in all these teams, and a lot of them are viable. Of course, that's why they're within the top cut results, without a doubt. But here we go. Colin, more or less the same kind of rain team. You got Azumarill Life Orb. You got Trick Goldango here. You got Trick Room Flutter Mane. This is something he's used before. So, again, a very, very strong rain team in that regard. And then you go down here to Patrick here, Pedons in 14th. Running the Clover Grimmsnarl here with, Thunder Wave as your speed control mode. Hex Flutter Mane with Substitute. Again, this is what I'm saying. You're using the same Pokemon on a lot of different teams, but look at the variants and the sets. That affects how you play it. Okay, this gives you a pretty good Trick Room matchup, especially even into Tailwind teams that are much faster. You're just able to stall out those turns, and just alternate your Protect. And here's the Swords Dance Iron Hands, and then as well as Nasty Plot Goldango. You can set this up behind the Grimmsnarl screens, especially, with Snarl reduction, along with the Intimidate. So this way you're not taking so much damage while you're trying to set up. And then, of course, Hex combined with Thunder Wave, just because your status is actually really, really good. Okay, we'll do a couple more here. This is straight up, the same team that we saw earlier. So I won't say anything here. All right, we'll do this one. This one has Gothitelle here. And then, of course, we've seen this Tyranitar Dondozo team before, so I won't get into that one so much. But this one, I thought this was Perish Trap for a second because I saw Flutter Mane and Gothitelle, but it is not. It is actually just another rain team, but with a Gothitelle to be able to trap things. And with Trick Room, by the way. So instead of having Trick Room on the Flutter Mane, we just say, all right, we'll just slap on an actual Trick Room user with the Gothitelle and just trap things, and from there just do a bunch of damage, right? So, but yeah, that's all I really wanted to say, you know, at least by covering the top 16 just briefly, right? You can see lots of different variants, lots of different teams and archetypes that were being used, which is good, right? That's good for the game, and really just puts to silence the naysayers that, you know, it's just pretty much the same teams within every single, you know, regional and competitive play. There's so many different archetypes here, and I'm glad to see that, and I'm sure you guys are glad to see that too. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we'll cover a few more other topics that I saw that were relatively notable within the regional, and again, just some ideas just to spawn towards, you know, NAIC moving forward. Okay, next thing is we kind of said this with the other regional, right? But and it's still true in this one. All 4 weather teams are viable, and it's still true even now, and I expect that to be the case in NAIC. So if you want to play a weather team, go for it. I feel like all of them are very, very good. I feel like Rain has the lead right now over the other 3, but the other 3 are still very, very good because, you know, not only did they have top cut results in the previous regional, but they have top cut results now within this region as well. So here's a sample. We already covered this team with Lenduel's, you know, Tyranitar Garchomp Sand team here with the Lycanroc. You know, just a very, very good, solid, balanced core, you know, with the Dragon Fairy Steel and then Fire Water Grass over here, just within the Tera typing, of course. Then over here, another kind of sand team. This one is with the Dondozo team. I've seen this one multiple times, right? Indeedee, Armarouge, the Trick Room side. Then you have the secondary mode with the Tyranitar Lycanroc, and then of course, the other third engine is the Dondozo Tatsugiri. So you have 3 modes. Just really just depends on which one you want to use, but you can also lead, you know, one mode and then the other one at the same time, right? In that respect. So it really just depends on how you want to play it. Like this one, Lycanroc Howl, this is something that we've used on the channel before, right? We even made a whole team on this. And then you could just lead like Lycanroc Dondozo, you know, just click Howl, you know, next to Dondozo, then switch out Tatsugiri next turn. And then Dondozo is basically +3 now instead. You could do that in that sense. So yeah, it just makes a lot of sense. Then over here, of course, we already covered Gavin Michaels' Rain team with the Goldengo in the back, you know, with the Life Orb Azumarill, Iron Hands within the Rain team. But this is another kind of Rain team with no Azumarill. This one is still using Palafin, okay? There's no Trick Room on the Flutter Mane, but there is Howl on this Arcanine, and Howl's going to not only benefit the Arcanine, but it's also going to benefit the Palafin as well as the Iron Hands here. So if you want to go this direction, you can definitely do that for Rain. For Sun teams, you know, 2 types of Sun. Either you're running Sun Trick Room or Sun Hyper Offense, but this one is, you know, the Sun Room with the Lilligant Torkoal option, right? You know, you just click after you Eruption, or you can do Indeedee Hatterene stuff. You know, redirect, set up Trick Room, and then just deal a bunch of damage with the Hatterene and or the Armarouge. And then the Iron Hands here is your physical Trick Room sweeper, you know, in the back. Very, very standard Sun Trick Room team. So shout outs to Tom over here. I met him once, you know, he's a cool guy. Then over here, the other kind of Sun team is the Hyper Offensive team, you know, with the Jump Bluff Tailwind stuff, along with Tera Flying Chenpao and Tera Flying Torkoal. And then, of course, here's the Great Tusk, you know, clicking Earthquake next to both. But there is a Slithering on this team, okay? So that's pretty new. And again, it got a 6-3 result, so it's a pretty good run for Slithering. So if this is something you're interested in, otherwise you can just put back the King Gambit over here, which is what it was originally. But hey, I respect this Slithering edition. It makes sense, right? You have Torkoal here, giving it the Photosynthesis buff, Tailwind to make it extra fast, and then you can do more damage next to Chenpao, of course. So, you know, I respect it. I like this. This is actually a pretty cool team. All right, then over here with William, running Snow. So, of course, the Snow core revolves around Iron Bundle Obama Snow, you know, just setting up the Auroraville, making the entire team bulky. Whereas, you know, like a lot of these other teams rely a little bit more on speed control. This one relies more about damage mitigation. But at the very same time, you have speed control here with the Talonflame clicking Tailwind. So you can do that regard. You can click Tailwind, click Blizzard, right? You know, you always have the Blizzard spam, and then of course Flutter Mane and Iron Hands. Iron Hands with Swords Dance behind screens is really good, so I like this a lot. I feel like anytime you run screens, there should be at least like one setup mon, you know, just because it gives you chances to do a lot of damage hiding behind all that extra bulk, so you might as well go for it, right? But like I said, all 4 weathers are variable. You saw some sample teams in this regional. If you look at some of the other teams in the other regionals where all 4 weathers were viable there, it was Milwaukee, I believe, and even Hartford to an extent, right? Take a look at those teams to give you some inspiration if it is something that you're interested in. But again, I digress. all four weathers, once again, are still viable and still going strong. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is the Tera Fairy option that some of these teams have on their squads. And really, Tera Fairy, it really just depends on who's it on, right? If it's on Fluttermane like Emilio Forbes' team, that means he just wants a little bit more extra damage out of his Dazzling Gleam and or Moonblast, right? So that's one way of using Tera Fairy. Just get a little bit more damage, and at the same time, you remove your ghost weakness at the same time, right? So that's actually really, really good. And then from there, you know, just taking dark damage as neutral hit is also really, really useful. Actually a resisted hit now because you have the Tera Fairy typing here. And then we also see it as a defensive typing, right? So if we take a look at Riley's team over here, so yes, he also has Tera Fairy Fluttermane over here for more offense, but he also has the Tera Fairy Tinglu, which we kind of mentioned earlier in the beginning of the video. And again, if you just consider what Tinglu is weak to, you're weak to fighting moves, right? So, you know, being a dark type. So if you just go for Tera Fairy, now those fighting moves are just not all that great. And again, even though you're more susceptible to like poison or steel moves, like who has poison moves right now? Almost nobody. Unless your name is Glamora, who's really using poison moves? Almost no one, right? So that's already out of the window. And the steel moves, okay, like the occasional heavy slam, right? But like, how much is heavy slam really doing to Tinglu? Not a whole lot, right? I know Tera Fairy might make it do a little bit more, but you know, at the same time, you have leftovers recovery over here just to recover all that you know, HP that you would lose normally, and then you have a stomping tantrum against that Iron Hat's going for that heavy slam potentially, right? But a very, very good defensive typing here from Riley. And again, we also see this from Neil. Again, also putting Tera Fairy on his Tinglu. Yeah, again, makes a lot of sense. And then over here from Gallo Orbea, not Tera Fairy on the Tinglu, but Tera Fairy on the Gyarados, right? We've seen quite a few Tera Fairy Gyarados, and it's the same idea, right? Like, who's clicking steel moves and or poison moves at the moment, right? And Gyarados, normally you might go for that Steel Tera just because it's great against the electric and the rock weakness, right, that it has. But Tera Fairy, you know, again, very, very solid in terms of, you know, that other defensive typing that you have. Sometimes you might see straight up Tera Water as a good typing, Tera Poison, good defensive typing. Now enter Tera Fairy as a good defensive typing. So if you're struggling to find some of your Tera options on some of your more bulkier mods, just go Tera Fairy. You know, it's been proven to be very, very successful. And if you want to use like as it offensively, it's best to, I guess, just use it on your Fluttermane, the premier fairy type within the meta at the moment. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on Tera Fairy, right? It's a good defensive typing and really only good offensively if you just have a Fluttermane, in my opinion. Okay, one of the other things I also wanted to mention is the idea of Palafin Balance. And it's just almost pretty much extinct as of this point. Remember that a couple of months ago, just how common it was. Now it's just like gone. Like, find a Palafin for me, right? I don't see any, right? Okay, here's one. So here's one at 50th place here from Alex VGC. Backs Balance, you know, with a Palafin over here with Arcanine, Howl, along with Tinglu over here. So this is actually a pretty cool team. I like this a lot. So Back Scalper is going to do more damage. Same with Palafin and Tinglu. Okay, so I like this. This is actually pretty good in terms of Palafin Balance. But other than that, how much more Palafin do you see? If anything, Azumarill got more screen time than Palafin, right? So here, from 33 to 50, I saw one Palafin. Okay, now if I go up, how many more Palafin I'm going to see? All right, so here's one on a rain team at, you know, 22nd with Lauren. And then over here, as I keep going up, okay, another Palafin, right, Neil ran it. And of course, here's Jimmy. But is this really Palafin Balance? This is like Palafin offense, so to speak. Then if we go into the top 8, do we see a single Palafin? We do not. So like Palafin Balance, right? Unless your name is Neil, right? It's almost like not existent in the meta at the moment. All right, I shouldn't say not non-existent. It's just very rare to find it. Like, you see so many different kinds of teams here, and Palafin Balance, you know, you saw a couple again, but it's just almost not here at this point, right? Just because the balance stuff is just really good, and a lot of it does well against it. If anything, the Azumarill is a better coverage mod at the moment, just because that not only is the water damage really good, but the fairy coverage that you get is also really good, right? Which is great into the other rune Pokemon. Like Ice Spinner is also really good, great coverage, just removing terrain altogether, and then just having that ice tech on here, you know. So now you got water, you got fairy, and you get ice. Great coverage all around. You have an assault vest to be bulky behind it. And in this case, you have the screens from Snow, you know, just to make the Azumarill a little bit more faster. But like Palafin, man, you know, it had its run, and in Regulation C, at Regulation D, I don't know how much plays that thing gonna get. Basically, just Urshifu everywhere, right? But one thing I do want to say with the Azumarill, a lot of them are played on either like these Tailwind teams in Rain, but also on Trick Room teams, right? Which is actually relatively fascinating in my opinion, right? So I saw a few. Is this one of them? Yeah, so here's one of them. So now you don't get Tailwind here, but instead you get Trick Room here. So like it's cool to see a Azumarill on Trick Room team, which makes a lot of sense, right? It's a base 50 speed Pokemon, the same speed as Iron Hands. Why can't you use it in Trick Room, right? It's not just a you know, a Rain Tailwind sweeper. In fact, a lot of these Tailwind Rain teams don't even have Tailwind. They just have the Pelipper, you know, have White Guard instead of Tailwind, and then just rely on the Scarf Goldango to outspeed things, and then just, you know, hide behind the Azumarill and the Iron Hands, click Trick Room, and then let these guys be the sweepers, right? So it's actually really, really interesting. And in that case, Palafin, you know, again, like I said, it's fallen off a little bit, you know, not just a little bit, quite a bit. And this goes back to a few regionals ago, where Palafin started to decline, and it's no different here. So if you're going to NAIC, I mean, do I really want to say stay away from Palafin? I don't think it's quite accurate to say that just yet. Is it harder to use as opposed to some of these other teams? I think so. But if you still want to use Palafin, I do like this Excalibur Balance team right here with the Hell Arcanine. I think this is a really cool and fun way to use it, especially this Life Orb Excalibur set, which I like a lot here. Okay, that's really what I say about Palafin. But yeah, just some final thoughts, you know, just from the top 64, just in terms of like some of these teams that we saw in this regional, right? Again, a lot of variance, but again, you see a lot of these Rain teams, a lot of these Iron Hands, you know, Tinglu Balance teams with, you know, those two, and then Gyarados, Amoonguss, Chiyu for your Fire, Water, Grass card. Then you just slap on a Flutter Mane. Very standard Iron Hands Tinglu team. And again, you see it over here. You see a bunch of them. Again, like we said, Azumarill Trick Room teams are going to be around Garchomp. Offense, you know, with Talonflame, Goldango, Chanpao, that's still going to be good. The Sun version, you know, with yeah, here's the one I want. Oh, he put in Flutter. Wait, why is there Sylveon and Flutter Mane over here? What's going on over here? Okay, I guess you have like Yawn Pressure here, but this is interesting, right? I don't know about this one, but it's interesting to see both of them here. But again, the Sun Tailwind stuff is still really relatively good. Then you have Dragonite, Chanpao, Great Tusk, right? Along with the Gyarados support. I like this for a lot. And then of course, you know, with Kingambit and Flutter Mane, Dragonite, Kingambit, Flutter Mane, Dragon Fairy Steel is just very, very good as well. Along with Corviknight, Corviknight, Garchomp, and Flutter Mane, also very, very good. This team with the Life Orb, Glamora, I remember this from the previous regional. This is a cool team as well. I expect it to do well yet again. Orthworm is still a good archetype, right? So if you want to use Orthworm, that's still very, very good. And then from here, this one, Zach is always running some crazy stuff, man. The Revroom guy, so now he's running Scizor, Sandy Shocks, and then Hydreigon. Okay, this is actually really, really cool. I don't know how much of this three we're gonna see in NAIC, but hey, if your name is Zach Emerson, you can always pull it off, right? Dondozo's still gonna be a threat, even though it doesn't have a regional title. You know, it probably just sets up the stage for Dondozo to win NAIC, right? Just because it doesn't have that big regional win just yet. But hey, you know, who knows? The Sun Room is still very, very good. And then again, like we said, the Garchomp double dragon stuff is actually relatively interesting, right? So here's one with Ben Emerson, like Garchomp and Roaring Moon. Then we see like Garchomp Dragonite in a lot of these other cores, like this one, for example, from Alexander, which we looked at earlier. That was really cool. I think there's another one over here. Look, another one. Garchomp Roaring Moon from Alberto, of course. Then another one from Chupa. I think it's the same team, actually. Garchomp and Dragonite over here. But ultimately, like, it just really just depends on what you really want to run. But there's so much different variants that really you could run, you know, up to at least 12 different archetypes, right, that are still like relatively viable as of this moment in Regulation C. So if you're going to NAIC and you need a little bit of team building help, right, if there's an archetype you want to build for at least the remaining part of ladder, or just some upcoming, you know, Regulation C challenge that you've got, or some local We've done some coaching with a lot of different local players, right? So if you need a little bit of help team building, sign up on the channel with the tier 3 sub, or take a look at the comment section with the link to join the channel with that tier 3 sub. We'll build you that team that you need to compete in some of these tournaments slash the NAIC if that's what you're going for. And then from there, I show you how to do the EVs. And then if we have time, we test that out a little bit on ladder. But of course, it's all about building that team that you need. So this way you can compete in that upcoming tournament, right? So that'll be it for now, folks. Let me know what you think of the Fresno Regionals. Let me know what you think of all the different variants in squads, okay? And if there is something that you think I missed, let me know in the comment section below. But we'll be back in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good one.